And welcome to Exploring Santa Cruz, a bi-weekly program on KSQD 90.7 FM, 89.5 and 89.7 FM. And of course online at ksqd.org. My name is Matilda Rand, I'm your host, and my guest is Michael Saint. Michael Saint is a retired airline pilot. He's done 7 years of environmental advocacy and EV, electrical vehicle, ambassador for Ecology Action Purchase Guidance Program. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Matilda, for having me again.
So you're an advocate. Does that mean you own an electrical vehicle?
I do. At home, we have a 2018 Model 3, also a 2013 Chevrolet Volt, which is a plug-in hybrid. And my son owns a 2013 Fiat 300e, and I'm very proud to say that a lot of our charging is done by solar.
So you do all the charging at your house?
Yes.
Except for when you're on the road?
Exactly.
And it's easy when you're on the road to get a new charge?
Yeah, it's very easy. Well, with the Tesla, you have the supercharger network, so it takes out a lot of the range anxiety that people think you have with electric vehicles. The Volt is just getting 40 miles, basically, so that's all done at home. Mm-hmm. You could go to a public charger if you wanted to, as well as the Fiat gets about 80 miles range. Those can go to a quick charge facility, too.
So when you take your wife for a trip, you take the Tesla?
We do, and the last time I was here, we discussed our 3,400-mile trip back in the fall of 2022, and it worked out just fine.
Tell us a little bit about how you got involved being an ambassador. Basically,
I started doing the EV ride and drives on my own back in 2016.
Ride and drives are?
You get people involved, and they come, and you let them drive your car, and you talk about the car and what's the convenience and the savings of driving electric and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I was doing that on my own for about a year or so, and then I joined Ecology Action as an EV ambassador and helped them with their programs on EVs. And they have like a national electric drive week every fall, and I did that for a couple of years. And then they got some grant money to form a program. It came from Electrify America, and they didn't know what to do with the money. So they said, well, let's copy what Michael's doing. So they kind of formed a program around what I was doing. We had more ambassadors, and still going on after 3 years.
That's fantastic. What does the program do? How does it help people?
Like it says, it's a purchase guidance program, and what they do, if you go on to evsforeveryone.org, you fill out a survey, and that signs you up for the program. It's all free. What they will do is take you through the process, and that's what an EV ambassador does. They will assign someone to you, and they'll take you through the grants and incentives. They'll take you through dealerships where you can find the cars. They'll help you with the rebates at the end. Grants basically are before you buy EVs, and rebates and incentives are after you purchase the car. So they go through that whole thing with you, and also help with the charging infrastructure too.
Uh-huh. You mentioned that there are ride and drives and that the program organizes that. What else do they do? They
do webinars. They also on social media, and a lot of the things are done at tabling experiences and stuff like that. So they're always giving out. The whole key to this whole thing is exposure and also education. Right. And that's what they emphasize.
Take us through the process.
My process as an ambassador is I let them do a lot of the paperwork. But once they get the people signed up for the program, they'll call me and put someone on my list. And since I've been doing this since 2016, I get a lot of referrals also from people that I've helped. So I try to combine the two. The low income is a little harder to do because people are low on funds as well as can't really afford a lot of the incentives or the prices that they have to pay. So that's how you start out. I'll get a person. We'll discuss their income, discuss their lifestyle, that type of thing, what EV would fit them. And then you would start looking for a car. And then I do a lot of that on different and various websites and dealerships. And a lot of these programs require dealerships that are approved through the program, but dealerships that aren't can sign up really quickly. And so if you find a car there, that you can have them sign up for the program, and then they'll accept the grant. And then after that, you just go through the rebates and incentives that'll help them pay for the car. And the grants are worked as a down payment. You get those prior to purchasing. And a lot of people low income need that.
Right.
They don't have a lot of money saved up. So that's basically it. And then everybody has my number, it seems like. So
Why is that? You get a lot of calls?
I do get a lot of calls, and it's okay because I want people to feel comfortable in these cars, and they know there's information out there or a source they can go to help them through the operation and any questions they have after they buy the car. I've got people now coming back after 2 and 3 years because they were on leases, so they want to get another one.
So people can lease the car, pay for it.
Yeah, they're good for 3 years.
And then afterwards, they can get a new.
They can buy that one.
Yeah.
That your first come, first serve. You get to make the choice since you leased it. But they can turn it back in and go ahead and go out and buy one if they want to do that too.
Yeah. So we're talking EVs, electrical vehicles.
Yes.
How about the plug-ins?
Plug-in hybrids are a good choice as well. No longer do we do hybrids. Those are obsolete, basically, when you think about climate change and not using greenhouse gas emissions or dirtying up the air. But they are on the programs. 3CE Energy has stopped doing plug-in hybrids. But it helps the range anxiety for those who can't want to totally go to an EV. But we don't really push them.
What's the present situation with the Inflation Reduction Act? What impact did that have?
The IRA EV incentive program is a good program, and I think what they're trying to do is really to make it available to all people, but they still do. Initially, they wanted to make it a refundable program where they would just write everybody a check. That didn't go well with Congress. So what you do, it's still now a tax liability program. So if you do not pay taxes, which most low-income people don't, then they're not going to be allowed to take the federal tax rebate. So it's more middle class, upper class, but there is a top restriction on your max income to get these EV rebate through the federal government. So if you're joint filing, it's $300,000. If you're head of household, $225,000, and in a single household, $150,000. That's as much as you can earn to be part of this program. And there's two good things new that's happened in this. We had this credit for a while, and then it became not usable because of funding. But presently, they brought it back at the beginning of this year. And it's also for used EV cars. They didn't have that before. But you are limited to cars at $25,000, and that rebate is only $4,000. It's not the total $7,500 you get for new EVs. And another thing coming up in 2024 is that you can take that Fed tax credit and use it at the dealership for a down payment. And they're working out the details with dealers now.
Interesting.
So you don't have to wait for your income tax rebate next year. So it's a really good deal. So it's doing great. They've done a lot of things. It's very complicated. So if you want to learn more about it, I'd go to their website.
Yeah.
Because you have battery issues, and where it's put together makes a difference.
So you already said new and used cars, which is good. I'm always concerned about the tax liability. I actually do free taxes for people in Santa Cruz. And I find that very few of them have, the tax liability that they could benefit from.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of disappointing because there are a lot of people who need their cars specifically because they have 2-3 jobs.
Yep.
And they have to go between the jobs, and then they don't get as much help.
I agree. But that's the way Congress figured it out. But what's really good is some of the programs like CVRP and also the grant programs upped their grant programs to $7,500.
Okay, so let's talk about CVRP, which stands for Clean Vehicle Rebate Project.
New EVs only.
Okay.
For that one. Standard rebate's $2,000. And what they have for low income, if you are below the 400% federal poverty line, they will tack on another $5,500. So you can get $7,500 for that program. The only thing they do, though, is they've lowered the max income limit. They're trying to make this a program and keep more money for those that actually need the money, because they were giving a lot of money out to millionaires in the past. So your max joint income's $200,000.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's still pretty high. $175,000 for a head of household and $135,000 for a single. And they also are adding an additional $2,000 for a charge card for low-income people.
A charge card is?
Public charging. So it'll be free for $2,000.
So if you live in an apartment building and you don't have access to electricity
Exactly.
in the building, you can get an additional $2,000 on the charge card and
correct.
go to public.
Yes.
Good. And that money, is that going to stay around?
It's dwindling. Yeah, it does say on the website, please put your applications in now. Money's running low.
And the website again is?
CVRP. Well, it's actually just CVR. Just type that in. It's going to come up.
CVRP, and it will come up.
Yeah.
And is there more information also on EVsforeveryone.org?
If you're listening to the show, you don't need to take notes, because all of this will be on our website, EVsforeveryone.org.
So we're just touching up upon all these options.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
And then I see that you have something about PG&E area. What's that?
Well, that came out in February, and this has been a really good year for rebates. There's 7 programs, which I don't think we've ever had that many. So PG&E is pre-owned EVs only, 1,000 standard rebate, and they do have, this is based on median income of your county, not your 1040 form or federal taxes. $4,000 if you earn less than $92,500, which is high.
That's a lot of people.
But it is getting more expensive, as you notice. Cars got more expensive. Rates are up on loans, and credit's tighter.
Yeah.
So it's very beneficial to have that high of an income.
Yeah.
You get 3 eligible vehicles for the life of the program, and you can get 3 rebates in the household per year from PG&E, which is really good.
There's something called 3C Energy. What's that?
That is our power procurement entity here in the Monterey Bay area, as well as down towards San Luis Obispo. We also have counties down there. It used to be called Monterey Bay Community Power, so people probably are more familiar with that. And you can look on line 5 of your bill. It says PG&E, but if you go down to about the 5th line, you'll see Central Coast Community Energy. If you have that on your PG&E bill, then you can get this rebate. It's new and used EVs. There's no income limit because it's for everybody. New, you would get $2,000, and used EV, $1,000. And they'll double that if you're below 200% of poverty line, which is very low. That's about $29,000 for a single person. And they will give you an extra $1,000 if you're at 400% or lower. And that's about $58,000 is the max income you can have.
We mentioned the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, the CVRP, the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project, and then now we're talking about the PG&E one and the 3C. Can people get them all?
Yeah, those are all stackable. The things you can't stack grants together.
Okay.
We have 2 grant programs. You can't put those on top of each other, but the rest are all stackable.
And which ones are the grant programs?
Those are what they call the CVAP and DCAP.
Okay.
They're statewide, and we just talked about the CVAP. It's basically out of funds. It came back for a while this year and only lasted about 6 weeks because they upped their
There's
rebate.
the Clean Vehicle Assistance Program.
Exactly. And the other one's Drive Clean Assistance Program. So they upped everything to $7,500. CVAP ran out of funds, and DCAP is presently getting low on their funds. And DCAP is just for the 9 counties in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then it's also Santa Cruz, Yolo County, and Sonoma County. So that's limited. Santa Cruz County can still get it.
Yeah.
And what's happening is CVAP's going away. I'm not sure what DCAP's going to be once they run out of funds, but CVAP's going to join another program from the state of California, and we can talk about that later.
So the IRA and the CVAP, do they exclude each other, or can you stack those?
No, you can stack them.
Ooh, that's good.
It's good. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
That's good. Okay, so CVAP and DCAP, no, not stackable, but the IRA and either DCAP or CVAP. That's all?
Well, there's MBARD.
Uh-huh. Tell me more.
Monterey Bay Air Resource Board.
Uh-huh.
That's for all their customers, no income limit. A new 2,000, used 1,000. And they will double that incentive, but they don't use your 1040 forms. They don't have that ability to do that. So the way they do is you have to belong to a low-income qualify that you're currently receiving low-income assistance. Mm-hmm. So you have to check the website that they list for the eligible programs. Mm-hmm. And then at the bottom it says others. So anything you belong to that's low income could possibly qualify you for that double incentive from MBARD. And they are quickly running out of funding as well, down to 21% today.
Let me remind listeners that this is Exploring Santa Cruz on ksqd.org or 89.5, 89.7, or 90.7 FM. I'm here with Michael Saint, and we're talking everything about how to get your electrical vehicle for a much lower price than the sticker price at the dealer. Now, listening to all this, Michael, I can imagine that people would need an ambassador like you, because this is a lot to go through.
It is quite a bit of stuff. I mean, I go through it daily, it seems like, but if I don't do it for a week or two, these numbers go out of my head because I'm old, basically. And so you have to keep refreshing yourself, and then plus keep up with the changes, and that's what the program does through Ecology Action. They have a staff that works specifically on this program, and they are constantly dealing with California. They work with CARB, which is California Air Resource Board, and where the funds come from. So they know these things a lot earlier than the public would know them. So, yeah, it's a lot of involvement to get this going. And we haven't even hit the charging re-grants yet.
No.
Those rebates.
No. Let's talk about the charging grants and rebates, and then maybe we should get into some examples that may be
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Go ahead. What's about the charging grants?
Yeah, they will pay for the charger and installation, and these programs that do it, the state grant programs, we're doing that as well, but we just talked about one not coming back. They would pay for a 240-volt level 2 charger plus installation up to $2,000, or you could elect to get a $1,000 charging card for public use and get a portable 110/220 limited charging for $240. Mm-hmm. The federal government will give you 30% tax credit up to $1,000 for an EV charger installation.
And it's again a tax credit.
It's a tax credit.
If you don't have tax liability, then
exactly.
You're out of luck.
You're out of luck on that one. PG&E, if you earn less than 400% federal poverty line, you'll get up to $2,000, but they're only going to do that for 2,000 homes. I don't know why they picked that number, but that's the way it is. 3C Energy, they're up to $2,400 for the standard rebate, so everybody can get it. And if you're lower income, that increases considerably for your installation as well as your charger. And CVRPP, I talked about, they are offering a $2,000 charging card below 400% as well, but they're running out of funds. So hurry up and buy a car.
So we started with the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. Looks to me that the other programs that you mentioned are a little bit more taking in consideration low-income people.
Yes, and I think also the best funds, the three that are more consistent in their funding, of course, is the federal government because they have a lot of funds. 3C Energy is very consistent. This will be their third year coming up. They only take September to October off at 3C Energy, but that's retroactive. In other words, if you buy a car in September, they will honor that purchase price. They're just getting their act together with their funding in that month. And PG&E seems to be very steady with their funds, too. The state of California is sometimes a little flaky. They just don't put enough money in, but they're covering the whole state, so I can understand why they run out.
Okay, let's talk some samples.
Okay, these are just recent samples. This is in the last month for some of my clients. The first one is just your standard rebate on a new Bolt EUV.
What is EUV?
Electric Utility Vehicle.
Okay,
How about that? It's pretty fancy. This person has no low-income incentives. The car is $36,000 out the door. He qualified for $13,500, the Fed tax credit, and the local rebates through the state as well as the Monterey Bay area. And so his car cost him $22,500. Now we take the same car and we go to super, super low income, if it's possible to get every single thing that's out there. Mm-hmm. $36,000 out-the-door car minus $23,000 in rebates. So that car will cost you $13,000, brand new car.
And what if you hand in your old car?
It depends on the dealer. Uh-huh. If they want to give you whatever they give you for the car, they don't usually give you what it's worth. No. And also there's another grant I failed to do. It's where you can turn your car into a junkyard. And if you're low income, you can get $1,500. It has requirements, so you got to go on the website.
I think a clunker.
Yeah, it's kind of a clunker. It's on the BAR Pro. You type in BAR program, EV program, it'll come up and it'll tell you exactly what you get for your car. So that really low income person had the grant of $7,500, CVRP for $7,500, 3CE for $4,000, MBARD for $4,000. Because they qualified for everything.
And so the $13,000, it's either down payment or on a payment schedule?
Well, your down payment is the grant.
It's done. But let's say the $13,000, they have to pay it over time.
They do. They have to finance.
Yeah.
And what they can do is once they get that in, they can pay down their loan, which will not change the monthly cost, but it'll take the term way down. Yeah. They'll pay it off several years earlier. My other example is one I just did last week. It was a 2019 Bolt EV. And what they're doing with these cars is they're putting new batteries in them and a little bit more range, 260 miles, more than they had at first when they bought the car. And this person had a gross income of $54,000. So she did qualify under 400% federal poverty line, which upped her rebates a little bit on a couple programs. So she paid $21,000 out the door, and she got $8,000 back on her rebates and incentives. And so her car cost her $13,000. It's a car that had only 36,000 miles with a brand new battery in it and 260 miles range. So good deal.
The person was happy.
Oh, yeah. He really likes the car.
When you're done with them, that's it? Or do they stay in contact?
Yeah, I tell them never to call me again. No, just kidding.
After 3 years.
And all those people got free charger installs as well.
Ooh, how did you manage to do that?
Yeah.
So let's talk about future funding issues. Are there any?
There's always issues. That's all I can say. Inflation was a problem. Price of the cars, basically the dealers were taking the funds. That's just how the market was. Tightening of credit is an issue. Dealer markups was a big issue. Oh. I personally made it my goal to not use dealers that marked up their cars. Uh-huh. Some of my clients said, well, that's okay. Well, then let them do that. But I just felt it was not right. There's a lot of greed going on there. Mm. So that's kind of the main part of the issues. And then losing funding. That's always an up and down thing throughout the funding process and getting grants and getting incentives and stuff. But I'll give everybody a good go ahead with all these programs because at least California is trying and they're giving out a lot of funds, and we're lucky to live in the Monterey Bay area. Mm-hmm. I go outside the Monterey Bay area and there's not a lot of local incentives. Mm-hmm. So we're doing a good job here. Future grants, things coming up in the future, what's going to happen is they're going to get rid of the grant programs and go into a new one called Clean Cars for All statewide. Hmm. It has been a program that was been around for a while, but it was just located in the larger air resource districts, of which we were not a member. They're going to be below 300% federal poverty level, and they're going to go into basically disadvantaged communities, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be for the wealthy. They're going to consolidate with the CVAP program, and you have to have scrap an old car if you can. Hopefully they'll make an exception for people, but that was how it was based on. You can also get mobility options, which are the free car charging, or they'll give you free bus passes and stuff like that. You can do that if you don't own a car. They also do have a charger program up to $2,000, and their grant you can get as much as $9,500. Oh, wow. So we're waiting for the final program to get here, and some of these things might be tweaked a little bit, But that was what the program was doing previously before they closed.
And so are people thinking then I should wait till that program is through, or should they still...
If you're 300% federal poverty line, I'd probably wait for this program.
Okay.
Because that's, $9,500. Mm-hmm. You can almost buy a car outright right now in the older generation electric vehicles. And some of these programs, you have to have a car that's not older than 8 years and no more than 75,000 miles.
You mean you need to buy a car that's not older
Yeah,
than
exactly.
8 years.
That's the limit, because they don't want you to have a junky car. And that's the way the grant programs are. So I'm sure this is very similar to that. I think it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the older grants are being replaced. That's about it on the grants and incentives. I think getting through that was great.
Michael, you informed me and the listeners with an enormous amount of information. Tell us again how to get the information.
I want to go to evsforeveryone.org.
So it's EVSFOR
for everyone.
Everyone.org.
Exactly. All one
letters.
Word. Yeah.
Well, Michael, thank you so much. It looks like you should come back again when the situation is all resolved.
And that never happens. But I'd love to come back. And thank you for having me again.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.